we've talked a lot about this in between media this season. There's going to be curveballs coming your way.
Hate's a strong word. I dislike Kirk Cousins more than probably any other quarterback in the league.
I get a little bit of that rookie-itis,
I would have said, I would love some of what you're smoking.
Even though I strayed, I'm still stuck between an interpretation, what it all means. Can I make a difference for something different? My mind in prison, then I saw the vision. Played the field, it's no competition. Found success through the repetition. If it's impossible, stick to the mission. I'm just cruising through on my way to get it. I found myself somewhere in between. Yeah, I found myself somewhere in between. Found myself somewhere in between. Yeah, I found myself somewhere in between. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
So one thing that really sets us apart here is we're not afraid to talk about other things that maybe aren't super fantasy related.
Do what you can to become a better person, to become a better human.
All right. What's going on, everyone? It's Tuesday, September 28th. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Seth Woolcock, thankful to be here on a Tuesday evening with two of my best friends, Scott Rainier and Gary Zamarripa, joining us from lovely Kansas City. Gary, Scott, how are you gentlemen doing tonight?
I'm doing really good. That all right. Had some nice Matthew McConaughey vibes to it, Seth.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. The guy was a legend growing up.
And still is.
Yeah. I'm good, man. We got a nice dose of rain in Seattle over the weekend, which we really needed. It was nice to see it rain again. Had a terrible week with my fantasy teams, but it was another really exciting weekend of football. So ready for week 4.
Absolutely, guys. We do have a packed show for everyone today. We're going to do the temperature check segment once again, take the pulse of the league, wrap it back up with some sure thing sleepers of the week. Going to go to Gary for some back in the day. He's going to give us a little bit of advice on what we can do with these rookie quarterbacks and how that's going to shake out moving forward. We're also going to take your questions along the way, and we'll, of course, round it out with some weekly advice. Guys, super thankful to be here with you today. If you're tuning in for the first time, if you're on our YouTube, if you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button, we'd really appreciate that. If you want to hear more from us, if this isn't enough for you, you can check us out at inbetweenmedia.com. Guys, we have everything over there from columns, our podcast. We have some YouTube series. Scott has another edition of his Pulp Fantasy where he combines a little bit of multimedia, whether that's anything in pop culture, movies, TV shows, with fantasy football, with NFL moments. It's a great watch. So you guys follow along. We will be here all season long. We're thankful for your viewership. Guys, anything you want to discuss before we get into it? I'm thinking a little bit about Dazed and Confused after Gary reminded me of my guy Matthew.
I'm ready to get into it. Let's do some rapid fire.
I'm ready to get into it. We got a pretty packed show. Let's just go for it.
All right, guys, we are going to get into our first segment of the day, and that is going to be temperature check.
Temperature check.
That's really spicy. Holy shit.
All right, guys, since the last time we've talked, a lot has happened in the NFL, from a brutal injury on Thursday night to what was kind of a crapshoot of a game here on Monday night with the Eagles and the Cowboys. Big takeaways here. I want to do a little bit of a rookie roundup. We talked a lot about these rookies heading into the season. We haven't talked about them much lately. Start with our guy, Najee Harris. Obviously, the rookie 101 pick in most dynasty leagues coming into this year. Right now, after a slow start, week 3, he kind of got heated up a little bit. A massive 14 receptions. Yes, 14 receptions on 19 targets. We saw Juju Smith-Schuster go down to injury on this. Deontay Johnson was already out to injury as well. So shakes things up for the Steelers. They obviously lose to the Bengals at Heinz Field. Pretty unprecedented loss for the team. Heard a couple people shouting out on Twitter, this might be the dark days of Pittsburgh football. But Najee Harris, he is there. He led the league this year or this last week with touches, and it looks like that's what we're going to get from him moving forward. Scott, starting with you, man, like where are we on Najee Harris? Is this the real deal? Because to me, he looks like a guy who could be a strong RB1 moving forward with this type of volume.
Yeah, I'm definitely well on Najee Harris. You know, I mean, his actual rushing hasn't been very efficient. I mean, of the top 36 running backs currently after 3 weeks, he's 35th in yards per carry with 3.08. The only person he's ahead of is Kenyon Drake. However, he's leading in targets, receptions, snap percentage, and opportunity share. He's got 95+% snap percentage. I mean, he does not come off the field. And while 19 targets in 14 receptions is a bit of a fluke, even if you cut that in half, he's still got 21, 22 fantasy points on the week in PPR. So, and I mean, he's only scored 1 touchdown. I mean, the Steelers are bound to at least get some DPIs in the end zone, set up 1st and goal from the 1, and Najee gets some touchdowns that way. I think he's 6 overall right now with 1 touchdown on the year. I mean, to me, even though the team looks pretty bad, I have no idea how the Bills lost to the Steelers in week 1. But he's just, I mean, he doesn't come off the field. He basically is their offense right now with the way Ben Roethlisberger is looking. So, I mean, I'm locked. The few games I did win this week, and with my teams, a few of them were definitely because of Nadia Harris. What about you, Gary?
Well, for me, I have him actually as a medium, and everything you said, I liked what you said. I was back to the less than 3 yard, right around 3 yards per carry. He hasn't even been getting a lot of opportunity, and really up till now, he's been taking, you know, I think besides this, what is a 14 catch week 3, he only had like 1 and maybe 3 or 4 on the other 2 weeks. So they're ramping him up. That said, he is in all my lineups. He's blocked in. I'm not taking him out. I have him in Scott Fish. I mean, I'm going with him. I'm just hoping that they keep the receptions going, because that's what's making he's getting all his points through his catches. And I'd like to see some more touchdowns too, like you said, Scott. So the arrow's pointing up for the guy. I'm just not looking at him as a slam dunk for well done.
Gary, would you be looking at this as a sell high opportunity to maybe get a stronger RB1, maybe someone like a Dalvin Cook? I know you're still high on Christian McCaffrey despite the injury. Someone like that, or like an Aaron Jones maybe?
Wow, yeah, that'd be a tough. Aaron Jones if I got Aaron Jones straight up, I'd have to think about that one really hard. You know, I think I might go that way, and then probably end up kicking myself like week 8 when he's, you know, leading the NFL and everything else. But yeah, I would trade him for that.
Guys, we'll see how it plays out with Najee Harris. I'm excited for the pass catching opportunity, like you guys said, but the line is atrocious. Ben does not look like himself right now. Hopefully we see Juju and Deontay Johnson back out there. I think that helps the entire offense elevate. Mike Tomlin did say that they were supposed to practice on Wednesday. So stay tuned to the beat reporters. They'll keep you updated down there in Steel City. Moving forward, guys, Jamar Chase in the same game goes bonanzas. 2 TDs for him. He has 4 in just 3 weeks. Right now, wide receiver 11, guys. PPR wide receiver 11. We talked about this coming into the year, that if there was one rookie who had the opportunity to be a wide receiver 1, it was Jamar Chase. Obviously, a lot of people were scared off from him early in the preseason with the drops. You know, that's a long way away at this point right now, guys. But are you seeing this as a sell high opportunity? Because he has a 30+ yard touchdown in all 3 of his first games. He's the only person to ever do that in his career. So it's definitely unprecedented what we're seeing right now. But so was Justin Jefferson just a year ago.
I mean, me personally, I'm probably not selling high on a guy like Jamar Chase in redraft. I want to see where this thing goes with him. He kind of fell in ADP, and in my opinion, increased in value at the exact right time when people were drafting in redraft. I didn't get enough of him personally, but I mean, I get it. He's had some long touchdowns, and you know that stat is pretty amazing in his first 3 games as a rookie. But that's kind of his deal. He's an explosive wide receiver. You know, and you could, you know, T. Higgins was out this past game, but he had his best game yardage wise in week 1 with T. Higgins right there.
Yes.
8 of his 11 catches have been for first downs. Burrow looks his way. Like you said, he's proved all the people that doubted him. He hadn't played football in a year, and he was sluggish in the preseason. I think that shouldn't have come as some big shock, but it had people panicking. I'm riding with him. I mean, he has the ceiling to be a wide receiver 1 overall at the end of the season. But I mean, for me, he's a locked and loaded wide receiver 2. So I'm medium well on Chase, I'd say.
I kind of go. I'm kind of well on him. He was my number 2 prospect coming into as far as rookies overall, and he's not disappointing. And like Scott was saying, he was having those drops, and they were talking about the lines on the football weren't the same and all that stuff. They were saying right when we were all drafting, making everybody hesitate a little bit and not remember what and who he was and is. So yeah, I'm not selling high on him either. I'm plugging him into my lineups, the places I have him, and I'm just going to leave him there and see what happens. And like Scott was saying, just ride it out. This could be another Justin Jefferson, rookie campaign, and I want to be part of it. I don't see who else I'd want to sell him for. Big play upside. I mean, he's got it all.
The only counter argument, I think I am with you guys. I want to ride it out. I was one of those fortunate people who I had my home league draft very late and very competitive league, but I was able to get him in the 7th round just because of the ADP fall. With that being said, though, he is only on pace for 85 targets right now. So, they're going to be big plays. He's probably has a chance to lead the league in yards per reception. So that's intriguing for sure. I'm going to throw a couple names out there. Just let me know, would you do Jamar Chase or this player? Robert Woods.
Jamar Chase.
At this point, Jamar Chase, yeah.
Okay. Allen Robinson.
Definitely at this point, Jamar Chase.
That's a really tough one. I'm really trying to avoid the extreme recency bias with Allen Robinson. Just a really bad start to the season. The quarterback situation's terrible right now. But I think I'm sticking with Allen Robinson there.
Okay, last 2 here: CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper.
Damn.
Oh wait, you threw in somebody that wasn't Jamar Chase. I'm team CD in this situation.
Yeah, I got to go with CeeDee Lamb as well.
I'm not going to jump off it now. I have been since the offseason.
Okay, fair enough. Guys, I want to move forward with some rapid fire. On some recent rookie action. What's been happening? Kyle Pitts, he's someone who has not lived up to his ADP right now. It looks like he is on pace for 96 targets. That's a plus, but he's only tight end 15 right now in a bad Atlanta offense. Is anyone targeting Kyle Pitts right now as a buy low? I mean, this is probably the cheapest you're going to get him.
It's probably the cheapest you're going to get him, and I would certainly buy low on him, but I don't think there's been enough games yet to where the people that have him on their roster are going to sell him low. Like, exactly. He's still Kyle Pitts. You can point at some of the peripherals with him that haven't led to fantasy points but are encouraging. I mean, the problem in Atlanta is just Matt Ryan is not off to a good start. He's pulling down Calvin Ridley's value. Wide receiver 27 so far, Calvin Ridley. So I would certainly like to buy low, but I don't think you can.
It's almost like the Rule 11. Gary, do you believe in the Rule 11? We heard about this last year. Like, for a lot of Matt Ryan's career, whenever Julio Jones has been off the field within the last 4 or 5 years, he has not been the same quarterback. Do you think that's what we're seeing with Matt Ryan? And if so, are you taking it as an opportunity to maybe buy low on Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird thing. But it seems like it kind of works out more times than it doesn't on him. But it could just be Matt Ryan is just getting a little bit older, and I don't know. I agree with what Scott said. I would definitely buy low on Pitts, but I don't think anyone's going to sell low on him, at least at this point. Now, a game or two more, maybe you get some jittery managers, but as of now, I think everyone's still thinking, hey, he's still going to break out. We just got to give him some time.
Okay. Patient owners. That's what we're forecasting here, guys. Want to go to a pair of wide receivers, Devonta Smith, Rondale Moore, both very disappointing week threes for him, guys. Wide receiver 55 now for Smith after a great week 1. He's had 2 very subpar performances since then. Tough road ahead for the Eagles as well. Kansas City, Carolina, Tampa Bay, 3-game stretch there. That's kind of a doozy when you think of people who could be in those secondaries ready to pick off Jalen Hurts like we saw the Cowboys do a couple times last night. Devonta Smith, Rondale Moore. I mean, everything went right for him in week 2. Comes back in week 3, 2 targets, 2 catches, 1 yard. Did have a red zone opportunity. That was nice to see, but it really was the AJ Green show and the Christian Kirk show. Once again, Rondale didn't see much of the field. Kind of a confusing situation in Arizona and in Philadelphia right now, where it seems like other than the tight ends, you don't really know who to roll out. Are you guys buying low on either one of these, Gary?
I am not. I like Devontae Smith coming in. Just too much going on in Philadelphia there to think that he could. He could do it, but to think that I wouldn't, sell assets to bring him onto my team. And Rondale Moore, I love him too. I was all over him, all in his rookie drafts. But there's just a lot of competition out there in Arizona, and it seems like there's. It's going to be Christian Kirk with the big week this week, and then next week it's going to be Rondale Moore, and then, then Hopkins is still there. So that one's kind of, it seems like there's too many mouths to feed there, and Kyler Murray is a big spoon, so he could feed a lot of mouths. But if I had him, I'm going to keep monitoring, but I'm not going to actively go look to acquire him.
Yeah, I'm if I were going to pick one of these to buy low on, I'd probably choose Rondale Moore over Smith. And partially that's due to he has a better quarterback, so I think he has a better outlook. What happened with Devonta Smith is, and what happened with seemingly the whole Eagles team is they played a terrible Atlanta defense in week 1 and smashed, and then everybody was early victory lapping. Oh, Jalen Hurts is also a really good passer, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, weeks 2 and 3, he's sub 60% completion percentage, and their offense has done nothing. So I'm not, with any of these guys, if I have a fluid bench spot, and somebody's willing to sell low, I have no problem stashing these types of players on my bench. Yeah. But it's if a couple more bad games in redraft, you might be able to get them off the waiver wire. People panic and people move on. So I'm not spending a lot on either of these players, but if I had to choose one, it's probably Rondale Moore. I just think he's just in a better offense. Still earning his stripes in that offense. But yeah, I like his rest of season outlook better.
That's completely understandable. Kind of the Arizona offense a little bit reminds me of the Tampa Bay offense. A lot of mouths to feed. Again, big spoon. Like you compared him to a big spoon, Gary. I think of him as a ladle at this point.
For sure.
Whoever has the game, whether it's going to be AJ Green or whether it's going to be Christian Kirk or Rondale, like they're going to have a good game. 20 plus points is definitely within the ceiling. But we haven't really seen Nuke Hopkins do too well. Definitely been banged up a little bit early in the season. So, I think there's more fantasy points coming his way later on. So definitely, like you guys said, I think it's a situation where monitoring. I think Rondale, if you need a flex, high ceiling, low floor, that's your type of guy. But yes, the Smith situation is hard to kind of wrap our heads around right now. 2 rushing attempts for Miles Sanders yesterday. So, that was just a head scratcher for Nick Sirianni, rookie head coach there.
Can I add one thing in this, and it's kind of a side point. We do have to be careful when we're looking ahead at matchups, because currently after 3 weeks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 32nd in the league against fantasy wide receivers, and the Kansas City Chiefs are 27th. Right. Now it's early. I don't think either of those defenses are that bad, but who would have thought Carolina would be the tough one out of those 3 looking forward? So, Tampa Bay has been able – you can pass on Tampa Bay. So, I am actually pretty curious to see how the Eagles do in these upcoming games where other teams have had success passing the football.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great point there, Scott. Moving forward to a pair of rookie running backs, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, both been – they've been okay. They've been okay so far. The North Carolina duo down there. Looks like Javonte Williams, he is in a 50-50 split right now. He's RB40 in PPR leagues. His backfield mate, Melvin Gordon, has found the end zone a little more. It's been a little more productive there. The veteran has. He's RB13, so definitely people got Melvin Gordon at a big discount so far this season. I don't know how many people have been rolling him out into their lineup. Javonte Williams, he did fumble once again last week in a red zone opportunity, so that was unfortunate. But guys, with him, Michael Carter as well for the Jets, he seems to be in a 50-50 split now. Tevin Coleman seems to has exited the equation in New York, and now it seems to be Michael Carter and Ty Johnson for the likings of it. But hasn't led to much fantasy success. He's topped double-digit points just once here in week 2. Guys, are you interested at all in? I think if you have both these guys, you kind of have to stash them right now. I don't think you can sell them. But do you have any hope? Is there any hope that there's fantasy relevance for these guys? Like Michael Carter's right now someone who's hanging on the end of benches who people might be considering cutting, especially in a 10-team league. He might be already on waivers.
Yeah, this is a similar answer for me here is I'm absolutely willing to buy low on Javonte Williams. And the reason being is this is one of those situations where leading into the year, we thought, he'll start off in a timeshare with Melvin Gordon. That's what we all thought. And eventually over the course of the season, he'll get more use. And, if Melvin Gordon gets hurt, he could be a league winner. It's been a 55-45 split in Gordon's favor so far. So it's kind of playing out how everybody thought it was going to. So I don't necessarily see where the big panic is other than a little bit higher expectations with Williams ADP. But I still have high hopes for Williams in Denver. They run the ball a lot. And so I'm all over Williams if I can get him at the right price. Carter, I'm worried about. I know IBT's been Team Carter all summer. But I'm just, same kind of deal. I don't really know what we all expected with the Jets offense with the rookie quarterback. But he's probably going to end up on waivers pretty soon unless he scores a touchdown or provides something. So I'm keeping him if I have him, but I'm not actively trying to get him.
So for me, that Jets offense is abysmal. He didn't even get a chance this last week. The Broncos do have a pretty good defense, and so we got to give props to them, but he had no chance, and Ty Johnson didn't either. He was involved a little bit in the passing game, but it was like they didn't get the opportunity, and Zach Wilson was running for his life, and it was just an embarrassment for them. So I'm definitely not trying to acquire Michael Carter. If I have him, I'll keep him, like Scott was just saying. But if there's someone comes up, I wouldn't hesitate to cut him in a redraft league. As far as Javonte Williams, that was my all in on the pod that we did for that, and I don't feel any differently. He was splitting 50-50 like we talked about. He was ahead on yards last week, and this week he wasn't, and then he did have that fumble on like the 1 yard line, which is that'll get you in the doghouse for sure. I mentioned he was going to get some playing time because he was a good blocker, but if you're a good blocker, if you're fumbling the ball, that coaches put you on the bench, and that so right now I think it would be a good buy low for him if you did believe in him like I do. If I had a chance to get him, I would work on that, because I'm thinking by eventually something's going to happen. Gordon's going to get hurt. There's going to be something, because he gets hurt all the time. He misses games every year, which whatever. But I'm a Javonte believer, and I'm going to stand behind him.
I like that. I like that buy low opportunity on Javonte Williams. I think that's smart, guys. Melvin Gordon definitely outplaying his shoes a little bit here right now. Michael Carter, like you said, I'm probably also, I'm rostering him. It's tough to see right now. He hasn't been very productive overall, but the opportunity is there. Like, that's something I want to keep in mind here. Is he has been the starter every week rolling out there. They set him up for a couple screen passes last week. They just didn't hit. Mekhi Becton, the loss there is really being felt. So hopefully they can figure out this offensive line situation. I think everything starts with there. Because we know what Robert Saleh wants to do. He wants to run that zone run scheme like his guy Kyle Shanahan. So I think we might see that again if the offensive line can improve. But holding out hope for those guys. Guys, I do want to touch on just a little bit of news before we move on into week 4 predictions here. CMC goes down. Christian McCaffrey, our guy, number 1 overall consensus pick here. In August, goes down in week 3 Thursday night game to a hamstring injury. Immediately goes into the blue tent, rolled out. Luckily, he's not going to be on IR. Matt Rule says that's not the plan for him. They're thinking they can get him back in 3 weeks or less. We heard something similar last year too, guys. Again, different injury, totally different situation. But I am a little concerned. Maybe if I'm a Christian McCaffrey owner, Chuba Hubbard comes in. He filled in okay. Didn't look great by any means. Dropped a couple passes. Went backwards a couple times, but 10.9 PPR points. We know the volume's going to be there. Obviously, ex-Denver Bronco Royce Freeman will be in the picture as well. Guys, right now, though, like I think if I own high waiver priority in a league or any amount of fab, though, I think we kind of have to be going at Chuba. Just, what if Chuba Hubbard is, half decent, and what if Christian McCaffrey either comes back and gets injured again or misses more time? I mean, Mike Davis was an RB1 in this offense. Is Chuba Hubbard Mike Davis at this point? I'm not sure. We haven't seen enough of him, but he was a pretty good running back in college, especially early on in his career. So, guys, I'm definitely well on Chuba Hubbard. Sorry, spending that fab on him. Are you guys like? I've said, Scott, you've probably heard me on here, and Gary. Like, I've been very conservative with fab and waiver priority up to this point in the season. I wasn't going after guys like Marquez Callaway and even Elijah Mitchell's maybe as much as everyone else is. But I mean, I think now if you have it, now's the time to spend.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it with Chuba Hubbard, I mean, it'd be great if when we're all faced with these decisions of how much fab to spend and, how long is Hubbard going to actually be the guy? How long is CMC out? Those when a running back or somebody goes down with a season-ending injury and it's just like a slam dunk, yeah, I pick up his backup. I spend all my fab. It'd be great if it was that easy of a decision all the time. It's just not. So you have to bring in the risk factor of how much you're willing to spend on a guy that might not smash for more than a few weeks, if that. I still think he's worth, a chunk of your fab. I think he's worth your waiver priority because we don't know how long CMC's out. I mean, they did say it's a less than grade 1 hamstring strain.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound super serious. They might just be being very conservative with him. But, that might scare them into not giving CMC, 98% of the touches on the team once he comes back.
That's the other part of it. Exactly.
So I think it's just one of those situations where, yeah, there's risk, just like there was with Elijah Mitchell. But, sometimes you just have to take that risk. Now, I'm not blowing all my fab on him. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to deplete my entire funds on Chuba Hubbard, but 30, 40-ish%, I'd go that high.
Would you use the number one waiver claim?
I think I would, yes. I mean, it would depend a little bit on my construction. Like,
right.
If I'm the CMC owner, obviously. But if I'm stacked at running back, I might save it. But other than that, I probably am. I mean, it can bite you in the ass holding on to that waiver claim and never using it. So I mean, so yeah, I would.
I would definitely use my number one waiver claim for him right now, but I don't know if I'd blow. I think there's people that are willing to spend more fab on him than I am. And it just seems like you had mentioned Elijah Mitchell, you mentioned Callaway, all these guys at the time was like, wow, yeah, we got to double down on this guy. And then there's going to be a guy like that probably every week or every other week or something. And I want to make sure that, and I'm a little more conservative anyway, but I want to make sure that I can hang on. And I do have the resources where maybe there's someone that I really like that I've liked as a rookie from years ago or whatever that comes up, and I have the chance to have the firepower to go ahead and acquire them. I mean, I don't know. You don't want to finish the year with $100 out of 100 of fab either. I mean, you got to spend some of it, but I just think others are willing to spend more. I mean, we saw people spend 100% on Mitchell, just whatever last week. I saw that in some chats. So I'm not willing to do that. I like him good enough, but I don't know. You never know what happens. Maybe Royce Freeman comes in and starts getting carries. I mean, the last thing we expect is usually the first thing that happens. So I would think you were able to get Royce Freeman at a giant discount and then cross your fingers. Like Scott was mentioning, if you are the the McCaffrey manager, then yeah, you want to go a little more. You got to be a little more aggressive to get the backup because you need to, fill a roster spot every week.
Yeah. I think we could see maybe Chuba work into kind of a Tony Pollard light situation where he's playing some of the snaps, has a little bit of fantasy relevance, maybe not a lot of standalone value, but a desperation flex maybe if Christian McCaffrey comes back, because this team does have playoff aspirations, guys. So something to keep in mind. Guys, we do have a question from our guy JT 86TN on YouTube. I did want to address this. What do you all think about this trade? I would give up Christian McCaffrey, Amari Cooper, Alvin Kamara, and I would give up Christian McCaffrey and Amari Cooper for Alvin Kamara and CeeDee Lamb. So this is interesting. Standard scoring changes everything, I think, with this. Any initial thoughts from either of you if you would do that trade?
So my first thought is both of those running backs are pass catching guys. So that standard scoring kind of wipes that out. Cooper is having the career season and who knows what's going to happen. But we talked about earlier, he's got that kind of upside as well. And so I'm going with the Kamara CD side because Kamara as right now is not injured, and CMC we know is going to miss at least what they say 2 or 3 games. So for me, that's the tiebreaker. It's close enough to give us some thought, but that's what I think.
I think that I read this as Amari Cooper. Is that how you guys did, or did you read Cooper Cup, Gary?
Oh no, Amari Cooper. Sorry, I did,
Cooper.
but I didn't. Yeah, Amari Cooper, but same thing stands. I mean, CD is better than Amari Cooper, but yeah, Cooper Cup actually that would change it a little bit more. But yeah, I just got confused. Sorry, I still stand by Kamara and CD though.
Okay, Scott.
Cooper Cup is the number 1 wide receiver right now. It's awesome. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think if we were talking about potentially a running back that wasn't a pass catcher and a running back that was, that the standard scoring would have more of an influence, but the standard scoring kind of cancels itself out in a way with CMC and Kamara. I agree. I like CD better than Cooper, and Kamara is healthy right now. Even though that Saints offense has not been consistent, I'm probably gonna err on the side of Kamara and CD. Yeah,
I think we're consensus on that right now. Like Alvin Kamara is going to be a better play these next 3 weeks than Chuba. And if you don't have Chuba and you have Christian McCaffrey, like we don't know what's going on with that. So I want the healthy back with Kamara. So good call on that one, gentlemen.
Hey, real quick, I thought this was funny. My brother literally 2 minutes ago texted me, thoughts on using the first waiver priority on Chuba?
Tell him to tune in.
I thought I had told him that, but
guys, I want to round out today talking a little bit about a discussion that we touched on last week. Scott, we had a question last week about which one of these early wide receiver ones could actually finish as a wide receiver one. I believe in that discussion it was like Mike Williams, Hollywood Brown, Sterling Shepard, maybe someone else as well. And you said Mike Williams, and it looks like that delivered here in week 3. He goes for catches 7 of his 9 targets for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns, 33.3 PPR points for young Mike Williams, playing on the wanting an extension, wanting a new deal right now. It's a contract year for him. Huge to see this from him. Right now, he's a wide receiver 2 overall, only behind Cooper Kupp, as Scott mentioned earlier. Is this right now, Mike Williams, his value could be at a ceiling. If I have Mike Williams, I think I'm looking around for a deal, but like this amount of targets is insane right now. It's been near double digits every single week. Keenan Allen is getting the double coverage, it seems like, a lot here. And without Hunter Henry, that's opening up a lot more targets to go around, it seems like.
So, yes, Mike Williams might be one of my favorite things that's happening right now in this young fantasy season. I'm not looking to sell Mike Williams if I have him, and the reason being is, as of now, through 3 weeks, he's basically this year's Stephon Diggs as far as the value you got him at and where he is producing. And I would rather just hang on to that value than try and move him for a different wide receiver 1. And the thing is, too, we talked about Jamar Chase and how, he's had some long touchdowns. With Mike Williams, it hasn't been fluky stuff. I mean, his role has basically just reversed from being a high ADOT, like deep threat guy to more of a possession guy. I mean, he's smashed his, so far this year. His targets per game has gone up 87% from his career average, his targets per game. After week 1, some people thought, well, Eckler flukily only didn't get any targets that week. So maybe once that evens out, it'll take away from Mike Williams. Not the case. Eckler's had 15 targets since then, and Mike Williams has still been great. Keenan Allen's, his numbers have dipped just a smidge, but he had 2 100-yard games. He had a touchdown last week. He hasn't been hurt by it. So I see it as a very sustainable role for Mike Williams if he stays healthy. So
Scott, I have a question for you. What about CeeDee Lamb? Someone offered you CeeDee Lamb for Mike Williams. What would you do there?
Oh man, I'd have to try and be as objective as possible because I have an unhealthy obsession with CeeDee Lamb.
That's why I brought it up. I think that's one I would have to think on at least.
DK Metcalf?
A week ago, I would have said CeeDee Lamb in a heartbeat, but another week of Mike Williams getting the targets, getting the catches, getting the touchdowns, with Herbert slinging the ball. I mean, I don't know.
I don't have an answer for that question either. That's why I wanted to pose it to see if you had something like your gut told you one thing or another. But I'm with you. I wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, which is
insane. Crazy from preseason and rankings before when we were drafting. But yeah.
I saw a funny tweet by Josh Larkey. He said, a 5th-year breakout by a wide receiver who completely switched roles might have broken him as an analytics guy. It's really funny.
I mean, it's definitely unprecedented what we're seeing, guys. I had Mike Williams projected out for only 80 targets, and I really thought Josh Palmer was going to be more of a threat. I mean, the beat reporters got me really going for Josh Palmer in the preseason. Jalen Guyton even a little bit. I thought we'd see more of those guys, as well as Parham and Jared Cook. But I mean, it really has been unprecedented right now. I had him projected for a little under 5 targets per game, and like Scott said, he's more than doubling that right now. It's insane. Would you guys do I'm always someone who's kind of it's hard for me to give up that new hotness. I think it's definitely hard, but with Mike Williams, I've played this game a little bit before as a fantasy manager. I think it could be a great season, but I don't know about wide receiver 1. Would you guys do a DK Metcalf if you had to give up Mike Williams and maybe a Michael Carter or another throw in?
Yeah, I would probably. I mean, if I could throw in Carter to get myself DK Metcalf, I think I would do that. I understand where you're coming from, but in a way, Mike Williams to me is almost. In a way, he is kind of a new hotness because I had just kind of forgotten about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
he's good. He's good at football.
It is still. I mean, it's still early. You look at the stats for each team, and the amount of receivers that have caught a ball so far is much shorter than it's going to be at the end of the season. So
right.
I mean, it's still early. What I've seen from him and what his role is, it's similar to DJ Moore. DJ Moore seems to finally be in the exact right role for himself, and that's kind of what I see for Mike Williams too. But yeah, I mean, if somebody that would be a good example of a sell high if I could move Mike Williams and a piece for DK Metcalf.
So if you guys remember last year, Travis Fulgham was just lighting it up for about 5 or 6 games there, and he looked like he was going to be the next thing, and he just kind of fell out of nowhere. Not saying Mike Williams will do that. I don't know. I think I'm holding on him too. I like all these other receivers, but when the recency bias, whether it's real. And when you see it happening and you're winning games because you picked him up late in the 9th or 10th round, Mike Williams, it's tough to do. But you just never know what's going to happen if something's going to switch on you. Do you go with a guy like Metcalf, who's proven year after year here that he's the real deal?
Yeah, my only difference there is Fulgham came out of absolutely nowhere, as far as I know.
Well, Robbie Anderson too. Robbie Anderson last year, he was a guy started the first couple weeks super hot, was a wide receiver 1, I think, through the first month at least. That's another guy who people were a little afraid to sell high on too.
Yeah, I mean, but with Williams, I mean, he came into the league as a 7th overall pick, so it's a little bit different, and he had all the potential in the world. So I mean, seeing it play out, to me, it seems a little bit, like I said, less fluky, less we'll call it less Fulgham-like, just because of that draft capital, that potential, that skill set.
For sure, agree.
But yeah, we're in that 3 games into a season where it's like we're really trying our hardest to figure out what's going to happen. We're not, we're past the you can't say anything because it's just 1 week, but we're not quite to enough of a sample size to really dig in. So it's that time where you could make a trade like that and Williams could fall off and then you scored heavily, or vice versa. So
or he's the next Diggs, like you said, and he has an MVP type season and you win the championship because you got him later.
Final thought, just go around the room super quickly. Where does Mike Williams finish this season if you had to predict right now? Wide receiver, as a wide receiver 1, as a wide receiver 2, or 3? I'm going to say a wide receiver 2. I'm going to say somewhere between that 15 to 24 range. I just don't. I'm not there yet. Scott.
If I'm answering that question, yeah, I would say realistically probably in that wide receiver 2 range, 15, 16-ish. It was just last week the question was posed, of this group, who do you think would most likely finish as the one? And amongst those choices, that's who I chose. But yeah, I think wide receiver 2 is well within his range. He's already put himself on that plane. And yeah, Mike Williams, Cooper Kupp, Mike Williams being wide receiver 1 and 2 after 3 weeks. That's the 2021 season right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with both of you. Wide receiver, a little, 2 range. It's realistic. You never know what's going to happen, but Cooper Kupp's done that before, where he took great season, then all of a sudden they started playing a lot of 12 personnel, and they kind of got him out of the game plan. Now they don't have Everett anymore, as he's up in Seattle, so that won't happen. Won't happen to him now, But yeah, I like Williams as a wide receiver too, with upside, like big upside for more, right?
Yep. Awesome, guys. Let's go ahead and move into our next segment, Back in the Day. Back in the Day is presented today by Underdog Fantasy. Guys, if you haven't played Underdog Fantasy yet, I absolutely highly recommend it. We've been having a lot of fun over here in the Woolcock Mest household, playing Underdog, the pick 'em parlays, the 3-man drafts. It's all been a lot of fun to do. And the cool thing about Underdog is you don't have to be one of these DFS sharks to be great at it. We have a couple of those at In Between Media. I'm certainly not one of them, but doing these pick 'em parlays, having some bonuses intertwined with it, it's a lot of fun. Guys, if you do want to try out Underdog Fantasy, head over to Underdog Fantasy. You can grab them in the iTunes store, the Google Play Store, wherever you guys get your applications. When you do deposit, if you use our promo code IBT, they'll give you a $10 free match. So make sure you check them out, Underdog Fantasy. And guys, let's go ahead and head into Back in the Day.
They ain't make them like this way back in the day. Took a shot, couldn't miss way back in the day. Couldn't predict how it could all change. Don't you ever forget how far we came. How far we came. Never forget how far we came. How far we came. Remember how it was way back in the day.
All right, so we do have Gary Zamarripa here. Gary, you are a guy who has the most fantasy football experience probably out of all of us, the most dynasty fantasy football experience out of all of us. So I wanted to use the opportunity while you're here with us this week to talk about something we're seeing in the NFL, which we're definitely accustomed to seeing, but maybe we've forgotten a little bit that rookie quarterbacks do take a little while to develop. Sometimes that, while they're developing, we can also see their offensive pieces around them struggle, fantasy output wise. We have 3 of these issues right now in the NFL. 4 if you don't count Zach Wilson, because that's kind of just the Jets' problem in general. But of course, Justin Fields mightily struggled here in his Bears starting debut. It was just bad news all the way around for the Bears. Did not move the ball much. Allen Robinson led the team with 2 receptions. He struggled. David Montgomery, the running back, also he had a season low as well. So for the Bears guys, you were looking for big games out of they did not deliver here in week 3. Fields was sacked 8 plus times here in his first start. Just, overwhelmed, just absolutely overwhelmed here this week. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, he's had his ups and downs too. They looked like they had a shot here against Arizona, pulled the upset early after that, long field goal return for a touchdown. That was awesome to see, but he struggled. Marvin Jones looks like the only reliable fantasy piece in that offense. James Robinson finally had a decent week here in week 3, but Trevor Lawrence has not been what we thought he would maybe be to start out. I know we have Nate somewhere down in Mexico screaming to the heavens that Urban Meyer needs canned after 3 games, and he's someone who invested heavily in Laviska Shenault. He has not panned out so far. DJ Chark's been up and down that we've seen, relying on touchdowns so far. And then Mac Jones in New England. The whole offense is completely watered down right now. No one out of Jacoby Myers for maybe a flex PPR play has really any confidence being in your lineups. Gary, with all this being said, man, what insight can you give, and what should our fantasy managers out there tonight take away from the struggling QB play early here from these rookies?
So first of all, I want to say that intro, I will never get tired of watching and listening to it. So good job to Short or whoever made that. So I was looking at this today and I was trying to think back to when I first started playing and we didn't play in Superflex 2 quarterback leagues then. So a lot of these rookie quarterbacks would just get drafted like for dynasty purposes and really not in redraft. But I was looking at it today and almost all of the big, even the ones that turned out to be studs later in their career, they struggled their rookie year. I mean, Peyton Manning's the first example of that. He set the rookie record for interceptions with like 28 or something like that, or 26. And that Colts team went 0-4 before they won their first game, and they ended up going 3-13. So if you can imagine kind of comparing that to what Lawrence is doing, where he comes in as the number 1 overall pick, and everyone has all these high expectations as they did with Peyton Manning. And then the Colts struggled that year. It's just you don't remember because everyone remembers Peyton Manning as holding the Super Bowl trophy up. But, the 3-13, I mean, that had to have been crushing at the time. If anyone who, were trying to play him for fantasy football or even as any kind of Colts fan. So long term, heads up for Lawrence and some of these rookies that you're going to need some time. As far as redraft, you probably shouldn't have been drafting him in a single quarterback league anyway. So, you're good there. Superflex, you got to take a shot on some of these guys. Another one I found looking at is Troy Aikman, which is before I was playing fantasy football, but it's a relevant thing. He was the number 1 overall pick, I think, for the Cowboys, or at least definitely high first round. And he was 0-11 as a starter.
Wow.
And he threw 9 touchdowns and 18 interceptions. So everyone remembers him as the broadcaster now and the Gold Jacket Hall of Famer. But, I mean, when his rookie year, he looked awful. So that could apply to Mac Jones. That could apply to, Justin Fields. I mean, any of these guys have a chance to really step forward. The rookie year is the hardest. They're trying to learn. The game's fast. Another one that was a number 1 overall guy that's doing well right now is Matt Stafford. He had 13 interceptions and 13 touchdowns and 20 interceptions his rookie year. Right. He had like 2,300 yards or something like that and change. So that's not super impressive. And he's turning in a pretty good career right so far. And, this year, especially in the new offense. So there's cause for optimism when it comes to these rookie guys, longer term. And then on the other side of the coin, you have guys like Matt Leinart, who were the number 10 pick of the first round. He had 2,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions his rookie year, which doesn't sound bad. Most of these guys seem to have about 2,400 yards, and more interceptions and touchdowns. But he never went anywhere, and so that could be, that he, label him as a bust. Vince Young was another one who started out really good. He had about the same kind of stats, same year. I mean, they had that duel in the Orange Bowl or whatever they played when they were, but he didn't pan out either. So it could be another kind of a thing where when he came into the league, that could be a Justin Fields type of comp, where people are like, we're going to draft him early. He's going to be the new guy. And then, kind of just fades away. So there's some pessimism when it comes to that as well. And then Another one I put down was Mark Sanchez. He was the number 5, I think, overall pick, and he was supposed to be the next guy. And 2,400 yards, 12 TDs, 20 interceptions. So basically, all these guys have about the same kind of stats, and that could be a Zach Wilson kind of comp, even just because they both kind of play with the Jets too. But I mean, you just don't know. Maybe that's what happens to Zach. He's just never puts it together. Maybe he's the Matt Stafford. I mean, we don't know. But so through the years, it's just drafting a rookie quarterback is not a good idea. One, and if it's a super flex or something, take your shot. Dynasty, you never know what's going to happen. I did see that Cam Newton and Andrew Luck and Kyler Murray, because we were talking about Arizona, they had great rookie years. So it's not like it can't happen. It's just that the odds are against you from it happening.
Yeah. I've done some research in the past on the number 1 overall pick. I know Jameis Winston had a QB 12 overall finish. Like the number 1 overall pick has generally, has that opportunity. Joe Burrow played very valiantly in his time last season. But I think the big takeaways here, Gary, is that like you shouldn't be planning on anytime soon to start any of these rookie quarterbacks. Maybe you shouldn't be rostering them in a single QB league. I know a lot of people have been rostering Fields just on the bench, just what if, and maybe it's time to drop him. Trey Lance too. I mean, definitely the rushing upside's there too, but you need that bench spot. Gary, final thoughts, and I'd love to hear from Scott as well on this. What are we doing with, in redraft right now with these fantasy football assets, David Montgomery, Allen Robinson, Marvin Jones, James Robinson, Nelson Aguilar? I mean, I know these are different tiered players, but these are all players, Damian Harris, all players that are affected by the quarterback play. Because outside of David Montgomery, I'm really nervous for Allen Robinson moving forward. I'm really nervous for guys like Nelson Aguilar, who I had high hopes for as a sleeper as well.
Well, there's some talk that Matt Nagy might have been part of the game planning issue, might have been part of the whole fiasco that happened with Fields. And maybe if they get him on some more rollouts, or they kind of change, I guess they were trying to play the Andy Dalton offense, and it's like they're not comparable type players, that he should kind of fit his offense around the talent that he has. I don't know. I didn't watch the games, the Bears game, so I don't know exactly what happened and how they schemed or what they did. But I mean, there's a chance there is upside. I'm holding on to Robinson. I'm holding on to Montgomery. They both have enough upside for me. Early on, I mean, I'm a big Fields guy in general when he came in, so I thought that was going to be the boom part for Allen. Like, finally we got Robinson a quarterback, so I'd hate to judge him on just 1 week as far as definitely don't want to sell low on Robinson, because nobody's looking to acquire him, I don't think. And if they are, they're looking to spend pennies on the dollar. James Robinson, I definitely will want to keep. He's on the upswing. I mean, Harris, I don't know about him. They said he's having problems protecting pass protecting. So I would cut bait on him. There's just a lot. That was a lot to think about there, Seth.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, for me too, like, I'm not necessarily giving up. I mean, I completely agree. These quarterbacks should be nowhere near your starting lineup in a 1 QB league. That being said, I'm not necessarily cutting bait on the skill position players around them yet. I mean, it's the same point I brought up with Javonte Williams. Like, there was expected growing pains with these rookie quarterbacks. And so while it looked atrocious, and I actually started Justin Fields in a league like an idiot, but Cleveland is no slouch on defense. Cleveland's D-line is no slouch. And it was very apparent that they did not game plan around Justin Fields' skill set. So I'm not necessarily just assuming that's the way it's going to be. So somebody like Allen Robinson, if Fields figures it out enough, is somebody he could just pepper with targets. Somebody who can get open, somebody who can make contested catches. So while I am worried, I agree it's one of those situations. I agree with Gary where there's not much you can do about it right now. I'm not trying to sell Allen Robinson. Somebody like David Montgomery, I'm trying to buy right now. There could be a lot of panic on David Montgomery, and I think he's going to be just fine over the course of the season. James Robinson, I think, really let a lot of people breathe a sigh of relief this past weekend. He had a really good game. He looked really good. Jumped right back up into the top 24. So I I'm going to give it a little bit more time with these rookie quarterbacks as far as the position players around them. I mean, even Zach Wilson. I mean, Gary said it. Has been atrocious. However, I can't think of a much worse slate for a rookie quarterback than going from New England against Bill Belichick, who notoriously kills rookie quarterbacks, the next week to Mile High to play the Denver Broncos. So, I mean, that is also potentially not representative of how bad it's going to be for the New York Jets. There's cause for concern, but at the same time, there were a lot of people in the offseason saying, hey, redrafters, rookie quarterbacks don't just all smash right away. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen that way.
We've gone fortunate the last couple of years, guys like Justin Herbert, Burrow, Baker Mayfield, his rookie year, Lamar towards the end of his rookie year, Josh Allen, same type of thing with that rushing upside, Jalen Hurts towards the end of last year. So I love what you guys said. I don't think we need to spend any more time on it. I do want to move forward to Sure Thing Sleepers of the Week. And this week it is once again presented by our friends at Stevens Quality Barbering Services. If you're looking for a quality haircut, a quality conversation, just a quality experience overall at a quality price, if you live somewhere in the Clearfield County, Indiana County, Center County, Jefferson County, McKean County area, guys here in Pennsylvania, make sure you stop in to Stevens Quality Barbering Services. If you want to book an appointment, head over to stevens-quality.genbook.com to book an appointment. Get on Noah's schedule. Guys, I've been going 6+ years myself. Always a great time there. Just went this last week. Noah hooked me up. So if you're wondering why I look so fresh today, I'm not doing anything different. Just still going back to the same old place, guys. So thank you, Noah, for the hookup. We appreciate it, man. We appreciate your service over there, keeping the good people of Pennsylvania looking sharp. Guys, let's head into some Sure Things Sleepers of the Week.
It's the Sure Thing Sleepers of the Week.
If you're new to the show today, Sure Thing Sleepers of the Week, what we try to do is we try to bring you guys some plays that a lot of people aren't talking about. Most of the time, these are people or players outside of people's top 24s, top 36s even at times, and players that we think if you need to plug them into your lineup, they're going to provide serviceable fantasy points. Last week, the Tides turned back in my favor. I said play Tim Patrick. He had a very valiant effort, 13 PPR points for him. Scott, you went with James White last week, man.
I'm sorry, James White.
The thought process was there, brother. I mean, sometimes I
Can't predict injury.
No, I know. I hope he gets well soon. I like James White a lot.
Absolutely. Guys, today we got some more Sure Thing Sleepers of the Week. It's week 4. It's kind of a decisive week for fantasy owners, to be honest. I mean, you don't want to fall to 0-4. I've come back from 0-4, 0-5 and made the playoffs in some redrafts, but it is treacherous. So people need a win right now. Gary, start us out, man. Who's your Sure Thing Sleeper of the Week that can help our fellow fantasy managers out here in week 4?
So I went with Antonio Brown. He was out with COVID last week, but they're playing the Patriots. He's a former Patriot. Tom Brady, obviously a former Patriot. They're talking about the revenge game. I mean, this is going to be the biggest game of the weekend as far as the media is talking about it and all that. And I can't see Tom Brady came off of kind of a subpar game for at least what he's done this season. I mean, it was still pretty decent, but I'm thinking Brady's looking to go back in there and make a statement. And they're not running the ball that great anyway in Tampa. And Giovanni Bernard is hurt now, and he was getting all the I don't know. I'm just seeing a lot of passing, and the top cornerbacks are going to be on Godwin and Evans. So that you can't cover everybody there, and there's Gronk. I mean, there's just a lot of options, and I'm hoping that Antonio Brown, as a flex or a what the heck flex kind of a thing, you can plug him in there if you're having some issues on your starters, or you have some injuries, that you can get him in there and maybe get some good production out of him.
I love that, Gary, and it's even a little bit of a revenge game for AB, who had that really short. What was it? Was it a 1-game stint with the Patriots?
It was. I think it was just that one game. He caught that touchdown, and then he was suspended after that or something.
Yep, 2019. Love that, Gary. Scott, you got a sure thing sleeper of the week for us?
I do. Apparently, I'm sticking with target monsters that play for the Patriots. So my sure thing sleeper is Jacoby Myers. I know we just got done talking about rookie quarterbacks, but Jacoby Myers is by far Mac Jones' favorite target. He's averaging about 10 targets a game. Now, this is more of a kind of a higher floor play. I would say Antonio Brown's a pretty good like home run play, ceiling play, but Jacoby Myers. I mean, and again, I'll clarify. This is PPR. I'm not really touching Jacoby Myers in a standard league.
No.
But they're playing Tampa Bay. One thing going for Mac Jones in that case is it's in New England. It's not in Tampa Bay. And like I had already said, at least as of now, Tampa Bay is 32nd in the league in allowing points to fantasy wide receivers. So I think this game is going to be a track meet, and I think Jacoby Myers could easily end up with 10 catches on the game if it goes that way. He's still looking for that elusive first touchdown. He still hasn't gotten it. But again, like I said, this is kind of a floor play if you want, depending on your roster construction at a flex or a second flex position. I think Jacoby Myers has a very, very safe floor this week.
I like that, Scott.
Yeah, before the season started at my home league draft, I actually made a bet with a friend that Nelson Aguilar has more fantasy points in PPR leagues come the end of the season than Mr. Myers. And starting to rethink that a little bit. You guys know my ever-dying love for Mr. Aguilar, so we'll see how that plays out. But, Scott, I think Jacoby Myers, if you're going to fire someone up in this Patriots offense, why not him this week? Love the call. And, guys, for my short thing sleeper of the week here, heading into week 4, I want to bring up Nyheim Hines. Once again, Mr. Hines, every year, just is undervalued. He was going outside the top 40 in redrafts. He has more fantasy points on the season than JT right now, Jonathan Taylor, who costs many fantasy managers first or second round pick. We know a couple things right now about the Colts. Carson Wentz is immobile, cannot run, needs to check the ball down. We know Marlon Mack is requesting a trade. He's probably going to be out of there within the next couple weeks to someone who wants him. He wants more playing time, not going to get it there with JT and Hines. We know he just got paid as well. And we know that the Dolphins, they just allowed Peyton Barber to run like crazy on him. Like, I've never seen Peyton Barber run like that, like we saw in week 3. So, the Bills the week before, the running backs there, Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, were both over 10 fantasy points. We didn't expect to see that. And in week 1, we saw James White come back to life a little bit here too. So I think there's a lot of value to be had here for the Colts. And I don't know about Jonathan Taylor. I'm a little shaky. I've been trying to get out of the Jonathan Taylor business. I haven't wanted to be in there all season. I think Nyheim Hines is, with Carson Wentz's current skill set, I think Hines is definitely a great play this week. Don't get me wrong. Like, JT is definitely, you're playing him if you have him. But I think Hines is the guy. We saw the touchdown last week. We know where they want to use him in and out of the red zone. So he definitely has a higher ceiling than people think. And worst case scenario, he's going to get you 7 to 8 PPR points. I think at the very least.
Yeah, I like that, Seth. I have him in one league, and I'm definitely throwing him in my flex this week just to, try to capitalize on what you just said, the Carson Wentz immobility and check downs.
Yeah, due to some injury, he's one of the best running backs I have in Scott Fishbowl. Yeah. So I'm excited to have him there. He's one of those players where when you watch the game and you maybe take fantasy out of it for a second, when he gets the ball, he's not the biggest guy, but he's a tough, good runner, not just a pass catcher. He can run the ball too. So I like that. I think he's one of those guys in PPR leagues that I'm always just, for some reason, hesitant to play him just because he's not the bell cow. But
for sure,
more often than not in a PPR league, you're going to be happy with it. Yeah,
I have him Scott Fishbowl too as well, Scott, and I didn't play him last weekend.
I had to. I had no option. I played a game last week because I had to. It's bad.
Well, you could have been like me and leave Dalton Schultz, Cole Beasley, and Nyheim Hines all on your bench. So you got to do what you guys got to do sometimes. It's been a great show as far as fantasy discussion. I do want to round it out with some feel-good light style advice to move forward here into the closing week of the first month of the fantasy season.
weekly advice.
All right, guys. So we often talk about here on the show that life's always full of curveballs, and the fantasy football community, definitely the industry, just got hit by a big one here over the weekend. Mike Tagliere, lead fantasy football writer, analyst, and podcast host for Fantasy Pros, passed away after his battle with COVID-19 on Friday. Mike was really just, a pioneer in this industry for guys just like us, people who have different day jobs, who want to do this and want to break into it full time. We try to take the family aspect of fantasy football here. A lot of our significant others are involved with the site, and if they're not involved, they're big supporters of it. And Mike's wife, Tabby, she's been a huge supporter of him since the very early days of Mike's work. Just first of all, condolences go out to the Tagliere family, Tabby and her kids, and everyone who knew Mike, the Fantasy Pros family over there, Joe, Kyle Yates, everyone behind the scenes there as well. Guys, I just kind of want to go around the room. If you guys want to say a couple words about tags and just what, this sucks. It totally sucks. It was a breakthrough infection too. He was vaccinated, which is, one of the worst parts of this all. But there are silver linings, there are lessons to be learned and takeaways to have. So just kind of want to open up to you guys. Gary, if you want to start us out here, man.
So it was heartbreaking. I mean, it didn't exactly come out of nowhere, but I think everyone assumed that everything was just going to be okay. It's just going to be a little more time in the hospital, and then he was going to get out, and he was going to be out, and it's going to just be as it was. And so that's what was a shocking thing for me. I wrote an article it was my last in between media article. Then it was kind of about how many summers do you have left? And it was kind of started out as when you start to get older, you start, kind of like a whole bucket list. What do you want to do? Make the best of your time. And then I started thinking, well, younger people there's different stages in everybody's life where there's how many summers do you have until the next stage of your life, and things change. And part of it that was kind of a little bit of a throw in, it was just that, you don't know what life's going to throw at you, and it could change everything. And that's why you don't know how many summers you have left, because something like that happened to Tags could happen to any of us, and you just don't know. So it's, kind of a live for the day, treat every, just like just the cliche, treat every day like it's your last, hug your relatives, love, your family and all of this other stuff. And that's kind of, my thoughts on it. You just don't know.
Seize the day. Carpe diem.
Carpe diem. Yeah.
Robbie Williams.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, rest in peace to Mike Tagliere. It was a tough weekend. I remember when I first saw, because I had been keeping up on Tabby's tweets ever since she started, letting us all know what was happening. And when I saw the update, I just was breathless. Huge hit. I agree, Gary. I mean, as a kid, for a long time as a kid, I just had that I'm invincible. Nothing bad's ever going to happen to me. And that carries with you, I think, with certain situations. You're like, oh, it can't happen to me, or it can't happen to that person. So it's a devastating thing. One message that has come out of it, and it's my kind of advice, is to really, really appreciate and love what you have, and really try not to take that kind of thing for granted. I think we all get busy with life, and it's easy to focus on the things that you want or the things that you don't have. It's really easy to focus on the things that are negative. But, just the other day, I think I was just sitting with my daughter, and she was reading. And I might have been a lot of times my mind might be elsewhere. I might not be fully present in this, but I watched her read. I watched her facial expressions. I listened to what she was saying, focused on the fact that, hey, I created that. That's my daughter. Stuff like that, just little things. Just really try not to take it for granted, because I can't imagine, Mike's a, father and a husband. That's what I am. And I just don't take what you have for granted. Try and take some time out to regardless of what you want and what you might not have yet and how frustrating that might be, focus on what you have, and don't take that kind of thing for granted.
And that memory you just shared about how you were watching her read and looking at her expressions, that may be something you think about when she's graduating from high school.
Exactly.
You're taking it with you saying, wow, I was present in that moment, and I appreciated that moment. And then that could be something, that just kind of a proud dad kind of a thing. Just like, I was there and now look where she is. So yeah, I 100% agree with what you said.
I mean, I wrote a column that had to do with, being in the now, being in the present. It just seems so impossible these days to really maintain that. For me personally, at least, I'm all over the place all the time. So I really try and just intentionally and almost in an exaggerated manner, just focus on what's going on around me.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate that. Some really, really powerful stuff. Definitely something, with me being a little bit younger than you guys, I'll definitely keep that in mind. I appreciate that. I hope our listeners and viewers do as well. Because I appreciate all the advice that you guys and Nate and Jen bestow on our audience here and everyone else here in Between Media and our audience as well. And I'll never take that for granted. Yes, we have a long way to go and we want to keep improving. But I'm definitely thankful for right now. My final thoughts on Mike, and there'll never be enough time, enough podcasts, enough columns dedicated towards what he's done. If you guys do want to help, you can go over to the GoFundMe that Fantasy Pros put out for him. The fantasy community once again is rallying in a great way for the Tagliere family, but we need to help as much as we can. Even just putting out a tweet there or whatever, making a video, whatever it is, I'm sure they're getting a ton of messages, but sending something to the family, whatever it is, it goes a long way. Something that really struck me when I first, came across Mike's content a few years ago was just like how real that guy was. Talked a lot about his family, talked a lot about Tabby, talked a lot about his kids, talked a lot about his Mustang that he's fixing up. And I always love to get updates on his car, like where was he with the car and, was it running? And that's something I've always tried to do here in Between Media. We talk about our lives, what's going on. Because I think, at the end of the day, while we love fantasy football, we do love life. And we're going to keep living it. And, we're going to be real with you guys. We're going to be real with our audience. We hope our audience is real with us as well. We're always here if you guys need to talk about this situation or anything. My DMs are open. I think I can say the same for Scott and Gary, everyone here at IBT. Tags, we miss you. Thank you for everything you gave to this industry, pioneering it for guys, just like us. You will be missed. Thoughts go out to you and your family. Guys, thank you so much for another great show of the In Between Fantasy Football podcast. We're going to be back next week, breaking down week 4. I'm sure it's going to, be filled with more curveballs because that's what life is, guys. That's what fantasy football is. We're going to be here along the way. So we'll be back next week. Until then, keep it in between, guys.
In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
So one thing that really sets us apart here is we're not afraid to talk about other things that maybe aren't super fantasy related.